In this video, we'll talk about conditional statements. So conditional statements are used very often in programming, and mainly they're used in MATLAB to decide whether or not to execute some code that follows the statement. So generally, if we have a statement or a condition, if that condition is met, then one set of of code will be executed. If the condition is not met, then another set of code will be executed with different action taken. So you can look at this example here. If mainly just based on the results, that different action will be taken. And there are three general forms for using the conditional statements. We will talk about each of them in the next slides. The first form is called if-end statement, conditional statements, and you can see it's because we have the if and end, and they should be at the same level there. And this is just done whatever statements or the MATLAB statements between the if and end only will be executed if the conditional statement is true. If the statement is not true, then it will jump to the end and it will just keep going to the following statements. So none of these statements will be evaluated if the conditional statement is false. And we will look into an example on MATLAB to see how that works. Okay, so this is an if-end example here. So you can see we have if-end, and we have the commands between them, and this is mainly whatever follows the if is called the conditional statement. If that evaluates true, then the indented statements will be evaluated. If not, it will just jump to the statement after the end. And again, we could have as many lines of code between the if and end. So let's look at this example here. So we start with number equals 7, and the conditional statement here, if the number is larger than 5, then the statement between the if and end will be executed. So 7 is larger than 5, so that's a true statement. So then that whatever we have here will be executed. So then number equal number times 2. So that means it will be double. It will be it will be squared. And so if that's what we said true, then it should display the new value of the number, which is 7 squared. So we should see 49. So let's check that, and you can see now the new value for the number is 49. And let's do the same exercise by just changing the value of the number and see what happens here. So if we change the number to 3 and see what happens here. So now 3 is not larger than 5, so that will evaluate. So that will evaluate to false. So it will just jump to the number after it. So let's just do that. Okay, so if we did that, so you can see the number is 3, and it also displayed 3, so did not square the number. So we did not get 9 here because the statement was not met. The conditional statement was false. If the statement is false, nothing between the if and end will so MATLAB will not look at these commands. It will just jump to the following statement, which is display number in this case. The second form of the if statement is called if-else-end, and that can give you, if you have multiple or two options, like if the statement is true, you want to run certain commands. If the conditional statement is false, you want to run different commands. Then this is when you use the else there. So that should be the format. And again, if, else, and end should be at the same, indented the same level, and the commands between the two parts should also be indented, like what you see here. So that will give you two options, and we will look into an example on MATLAB for that. Okay, so in this example we want a program that we give it a grade, and we want MATLAB to decide if that the student passed or failed. So based on a grade of, if the grade is above than 60, passed; if it is less than 60, failed. So in this case we start with a grade of 80, and you can see here we have two options like if, else, and end, and they should be at the same level here. And we have the statements we have there, like if the condition is met, then it should display a passed statement. If the condition is not met, it will just jump to the second line, and it will display a failed statement. So let's look at and see what we get. And you can see when I run it, it gave pass. And so let's clear the screen, and we can run it again with another grade. So let's just do it now with a grade of 57. So that's 57 is not larger than 60. So that's not met, so it will go to the else, so it will display the failed grade. So let's run it and see. And you can see it gave a failed statement there. So this is usually more common, that if you have more than one option, two options to run, then you have to use the if, else, end statement. If you only need to run the certain set of code, if a condition is met, then just use if, end. And in the third type, you may have more than one, like one option, then we will cover that in the third option. So the third type is called if, else, end. So that can give you more options. Than let's talk about the grade example we used. With if, else, end, we were able to either give failed or passed. But with this option, we could decide to give grades like A, B, C, D, and F. So that's mainly give you more option. So you could use as many sections as you need. So the first one will be the if. The last one is the else, and you could use as many else if as you want. So just make sure to just keep saying if else until you end all the option, and usually the last option should follow the else. And again, the if, else, and end should be at the same level for the program to work. So let's look at an example on MATLAB for that. Okay, so in this example I wrote it so when I give a grade to the program, it should decide what letter grade the student should get. So you can see here I have more options to choose from. So, and again, I have multiple else if. The first one should be the if, and end, and the else should be just the last one. So you could use multiple else if, but you only use one else, which is the last one. And again, this is optional. So think about this as like a flow chart. So we give the grade to the program, then it will run the first line and check the first statement. If it is true, it will run the code. If not, then it will just go to the else if. So in this case, the grade is 80. So 80 less than 60, so that's not a true statement. So it will go to the next one. Then grade 80 larger than 60, so that's true, but it's 80 is not less than 70, so that's not true, then, because that's AND. So both sides of the AND should be true for the statement to be true, so it will jump to the next else if. So 80 is larger than 70, so that's true, and 80 is equal to 80 there.
Here to help.
So that's not true, because 80 is not less than 80. Then we go to the next one, which is it's equal to 80 and less than 80. So that's the correct category here. So the grade that we should see is B. And then the last one will be the if. We could replace the else with else if. As I said, else is optional, so we could use all of them as else if, and we don't include else. So let's run it and see what we get here. So if you run it, you got a B. So if you put the grade 80, then the grade you get a letter grade of B. And if we test it with other grades, we can just keep changing the grades and see if that's working. So let's now change the grade to 70. If the program is written right, then we should get a C. So let's run it and see what do we get here. So you got a C, so that's a true statement. And again, you could change, for example, to 50 and run it again, and you got an F. And if you change that to 92 and run it again, you got an A. So that's mainly how we do that. So you can see that's the conditional statement is a powerful tool that's used in programming, and it's used very often in programming whenever we need to make a decision which code or which option to use. So the conditional statements, like you can see here, they can work with the flow charts, so mainly that can help you visualize what's happening behind the scene. So this is the if statement. If it's true, then it will run the first set of commands, then it will end and continue after the statements after the end. But if it's false, it will go to the else if, and it will run the second set of commands. If the conditional statement with else if is false, then it will run the third set of commands. Then we could use still another else if, so that gives us the option to run multiple sets of commands. And at the end, when we get to the end, then the program keep executing the following commands after the end. So as I said, keep in mind that every if must have an end to it, and it's optional to have else. And we could use any combination, either if-end or if-else-end or if-else-end, depends on how many options do you have, and we could use either one of them to accomplish mainly the if-else-end can give you more details that you can provide in your program if you have multiple options to present. And also remember that there is no conditional statement for else. If you are using else if, then each else if needs its own conditional statement, but there is no conditional statement for else, and you could actually eliminate the else completely.